It is a huge political story, the biggest political story this election season, one nation, one poll. It is something that the Prime Minister is very keen on. He's talked about this in the past, including to interviews here to Network 18, that how we are perennially in election mode and how there is a need to have one nation, one poll. And to that extent, today the government has announced that they have formed a committee under former President Ram Nath Kovind. It will have other very, very prominent members, including a retired Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, a retired Chief Election Commissioner. There will be consultations, wide-ranging consultations with political parties and all stakeholders before they come to a conclusion on whether India is ready for one nation, one election. Now, the pros of it is very well known. India is perennially in election mode. There is a Lok Sabha election or some state assembly election. Therefore, that hampers development. There is the cost factor. The 2014 election, for example, was 10x more in terms of money spent compared to elections in the late 90s, in the late 80s and in the early 1990s. So clearly, there is a cost-benefit analysis as well. But the important thing is this, and this is what opposition parties, the India Alliance, which met in Mumbai today, have argued against, that in a federal structure, in a parliamentary democracy, it is anti-constitutional, antithetical, and anti-federalism to be having one nation, one poll. So which side will prevail, and will it happen before 2024?
Not one nation, one election. We want fair election. जो आज देश में नहीं हो रहा है, और ये फेयर इलेक्शन जो हम मांग रहे हैं, ये टालने के लिए ये वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन का ये फंडा लेकर आए हैं।
देखिए, भारतीय जनता पार्टी का देश के संविधान और लोकतंत्र में विश्वास नहीं। वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन भारत के लोकतंत्र में संभव नहीं है। भारतीय जनता पार्टी का वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन में छुपा हुआ एजेंडा है। वो भारत के जितने भी क्षेत्रीय दल हैं उनको समाप्त कर देना चाहती है।
ये उनका डर साफ दर्शाता है। जब पहले दो बैठक हुई विपक्षी एकता की, इंडिया अलायंस की, तो 200 रुपया एलपीजी कम हो गया। इस बार घबराहट इतनी बढ़ गई कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अमेंडमेंट करने पे सोच आए हैं। देखिए, इससे वो आने वाले चुनाव में भाजपा नहीं जीत पाएगी।
लगातार चुनाव के कारण रिफॉर्म का जो प्रोसेस होता है उसमें भी एक प्रेशर आता है और अलग अलग दल फिर अपने राज्यों में उन रिफॉर्म्स को रोक देते हैं ताकि इलेक्शन में उनको फ़ायदा मिल सके। तो वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन के कारण 5 साल की खुली स्लेट रहेगी, पैसा भी बर्बाद नहीं होगा और रिफॉर्म्स की प्रोसेस भी अच्छे तरीके से चलेगी।
नाउ दिस कमीशन will definitely look after the issue of one nation, one election, because multiple election involve lots of money, and because every time India is in election mode, development suffered a lot.
All right, so is it a poll tactic or is it a reform whose time has come? Let's first bring you up to speed with what are the arguments for one nation, one poll, and what are the arguments against it. Those who want and are advocates of one nation, one poll are saying that this ensures a better voter turnout because there are fewer elections, more people are enthused to turn up for voting. Those against say this is a direct challenge to the federal structure. Those in favor say the poll expenses, remember, the 2014 election, for example, was in excess of 3,500 crores. That is almost 10x what it was in the late 1980s. It will also, those against are saying that it will spread confusion among voters because they have to vote both for the Lok Sabha and for their respective legislative assembly, both at the same time. Also, those in favor say it reduces burden on the administrative setup. Otherwise, you're in election mode every 6 months. The model code comes into effect. Whereas those against say it reduces accountability amongst netas. Those in favor say it's a better use of security forces because you don't have to keep deploying them for election duty every 6 months. Those against say that this will benefit the national parties and this will be a downside for the regional parties. So again, if you go back to those in favor, they say it ensures a certain continuity in policies, also continuity between centre and states. But those against say the poll calendar disruption can happen because of unforeseen events, a government losing a trust vote, a government being dismissed and president's rule being imposed. So all of these factors have to be taken into account before we have one nation, one poll. But let me also take you through the history of this whole idea of having one nation, one election. It's not a new idea. This has been tried in the past as well, all the way back to 1983 when the Election Commission at that time had first mooted this idea. So this is going back a good 40 years. In 1999, the Justice Jeevan Reddy Commission had gone into this. They had backed the idea from a principle standpoint. In 2003, when Mr. Vajpayee was Prime Minister, he took up this matter. He consulted with Sonia Gandhi. Initially, the Congress seemed open to the idea, but then they backtracked. The Congress party and Sonia Gandhi backtracked, and then that idea went back into cold storage. In 2010, when the UPA was in power, when Manmohan Singh was Prime Minister, L.K. Advani, the leader of the opposition at that time, he had broached this idea with Manmohan Singh as well as then Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee. Again, it did not go too far. In 2014, when the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, got elected, he had mooted this idea again for one nation, one poll, saying that India can ill afford to be perennially in election mode. In 2017, the Niti Aayog was authorized by the government to prepare a working paper on the feasibility of having one nation, one poll. In 2019, the then Chief Election Commissioner Sunil Arora had said that it was an idea which was a very desirable goal. But he also said it was not meant for the 2019 election. It could happen sometime in the future. So are we ready as a nation for one nation, one poll? S.Y. Qureshi is former Chief Election Commissioner of India. He's now joining us live. Thank you very much, sir, for speaking with us. You have been in this hot seat. I'm sure this question of one nation, one poll has come up when you were in office as well. Tell us why this is feasible and tell us why this may not happen.
Dhaka, there are lots of pros and cons of the proposal. Let me first count the benefits. The number one is that it is the most convenient thing for the Election Commission and for everyone because voter is the same, polling station is the same, election machinery is the same, and the security apparatus is the same. So therefore, in one polling station, you go there as a voter. Instead of pressing one machine at a time, there are three machines for three tiers, and you press them all, and you're free for 5 years. Positive point. Secondly, because of repeated election, communalism, casteism, polarization, electoral corruption, they all increase. At least they will not be happening every 6 months, 1 year. That's another great thing. Yeah. Then at the same time, the reasons given, the cost. One estimate was that in the last election, 60,000 crore was the cost to the political party. Besides what it was the election commission for the conduct of elections, about 4,000 crore, which is actually it's quite small. Now, 60,000 crore, is that an undesirable expenditure? Many people think that this is a desirable thing. This is the money of the politician being recycled. Where does it go? To the laborer, to the auto driver, to the painter, to the carpenter. So that's a very good thing. In fact, one MP, BJD MP, Mr. What's his name, from Odisha, he said that if you ask the people love frequent elections because that is the only power they have. At least that is they get importance. Otherwise, what happens is after winning the election, an MP or MLA disappears for 5 years, and the posters are pasted missing. Gumshuda ki talash. All this is happening because they never go back to the voters. Because of repeated elections, at least the accountability increases. They keep going back to the voters again and again.
But sir, tell me, from a logistical point of view, and because you've been there and done that, simultaneous elections would mean having twice or even thrice the number of electoral voting machines. That is one part.
Yes.
Security forces. Do we have, twice or thrice the number of security forces to be deployed across the country for one poll simultaneously, whether it is Lok Sabha, Vidhan Sabha, and of course the third tier being Panchayat and municipal elections. Do we have that kind of security to spare? So logistically, is it feasible?
No, the availability of security is definitely an issue, but whether it is one election or three elections together, actually it doesn't make a difference because every polling station is secured. Once it is secured, if you go and press one machine or three machines, that's a matter of operational detail. Therefore, it doesn't really create any logistical problem. The one logistical problem which will happen is, and which you pointed out, that right now the electronic voting machines are recycled from Lok Sabha. Then we use them in state election. From a state election, we take them back to Lok Sabha. But if all elections are happening at the same time, we need 3 times the machine. Now, which will require some time to manufacture. Obviously, in the 2024 election, it is not possible. As Sunil Arora pointed out in 2019, it requires 2-3 years of preparation because it's not just the EVM but the VVPAT. VVPAT actually has a tendency to get out of order more often because it is electromechanical. So logistically, that will surely be a problem.
So I also want to get a word, sir, from you on the legislative and the constitutional hurdles to get there. One is you need a constitutional amendment, you need 2/3 majority both in Lok Sabha and in the Rajya Sabha, and also 50% of the legislatures have to vote for this. Do you believe that is a tall ask or it's the need of the hour?
Well, even if it is the need of the hour, it is a very tall order. And which is why, the Prime Minister from the very beginning has been saying that let there be a national debate. He has not thrust it down the throat of the nation. All these 8 years, he has only been talking about a national debate, which is happening, but which has not led to any conclusion. Okay. And now a committee has been constituted as the most high-powered as it can be. Let us see what it comes up with. And surely they will talk to all the stakeholders. And if a consensus is achieved, well and good. But if it doesn't, it should not be thrust on the nation.
All right. Dr. S.Y. Qureshi, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us at the top of Brass Tacks on this important day and this important news development. Let's now open this up to our political guests and our panelists. Sanju Verma is National Spokesperson of the BJP. Salman Soz, National Spokesperson of the Congress Party. Ghanshyam Tiwari, National Spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. And Professor Sanjay Kumar is Director with Lokniti and CSDS. Sanju Verma, this is not a new idea. This has been prompted in the past as well when Mr. Vajpayee was Prime Minister, when Mr. Advani was the leader of the opposition in 2010. In fact, it goes all the way back to 1983 when the Election Commission went into this idea. So from Election Commission, Law Commission, all of the Parliamentary Standing Committee, all of these folks came to the conclusion that it's a great idea. It saves costs, all of that fine. But it's a legislative and constitutional hurdle that needs to be overcome, almost like a nightmare that needs to be overcome. So why is the Modi government floating this idea now in the fag end of your second term, and that too on the very day the India Alliance parties are meeting in Mumbai?
Zaka, I will just say this, that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has repeatedly on various occasions from umpteen forums, he has reinforced and reiterated the need to have simultaneous elections because he stated in as many words that it eases the burden on the exchequer, it is easy on the federal structure, and it does away with the administrative nightmare of having a model code of conduct in place every 2 or 3 months down the line. And as far as the timing of this goes, you saying why on a day that the I.N. was meeting at the Grand Hyatt in Mumbai, my limited response to that is, sometimes it's better to just take things as they seem prima facie on the face of it, rather than trying to dig deep and find a story where there's none. The other very interesting point which you made, I think you gave us a very comprehensive introduction. Yes, you're right. Atal Bihari Vajpayee discussed it with Sonia Gandhi in 2003. L.K. Advani actually got the informal support of the then Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee. But finally, one nation, one election never went beyond an idea. I think it's an idea whose time has come. forget about the financial costs, which will come down dramatically, or the administrative hassles, which will reduce significantly. I just have this to say that, imagine every time there is an election, we are all aware, let's not try and fool ourselves, the bureaucracy, teachers in government schools, professors, various kinds of officers, junior level officers, everybody has to keep everything aside and ensure that there are free and fair elections. So the entire administrative machinery comes to a standstill for a lot of government officers and for the bureaucracy. So why not have something which is synchronized? And I don't think it will happen in a rush, Zaka. So the opposition seems to be tying itself up in knots because two important things need to happen. I will take 20 seconds.
Yeah, quickly, ma'am.
There has to be an amendment to the Representation of People's Act 1951, assuming that the Modi government even does that. The other very important caveat is that there has to be a ratification on this entire issue by 50% of the state legislative assemblies.
Correct.
And unless 50% of the states ratify, one nation, one election cannot be implemented. So we are today in power in 15 states on a standalone basis or with our alliance partners. And you still have 10 or 12 states and union territories where the BJP is not in power. So the opposition should, cool its heels and not try and read too much between the lines. Why not start a process?
Okay, so let me ask Salman Soz this, and I'm going to go across to that the nearer video wall. Salman, the Congress party and other opposition parties also keep saying this time and time again that electoral bonds, opaque financing, BJP corners all the money, and therefore they're able to defeat you in elections. So you should welcome one nation, one poll. Instead of spending every 6 months for every assembly election, Lok Sabha election, you just spend once in 5 years. That should suit you. Why are you then opposed to the idea of one nation, one poll?
Zaka, I'm not here to play BJP's pitch. There are many more immediate issues that confront this country and the people of this country. Why don't we have a debate about one nation and one friend? There were serious allegations about Mr. Gautam Adani today in international media. Let's talk about one nation, one friend. Let's talk about one nation, no jobs. That is a far more.
From the topic of the
Please do not interrupt. Do not interrupt.
Ma'am, let him make his point. Ma'am, please let him make his point. Let him make his point, please. Let's be fair. Let's be fair. Sanjuji, let him make his point. Let him make his point. And if he's digressing, I will rein him in. But at least give him the opportunity to make his point. Yeah, Salman. Yeah. I get it. Yeah, Salman
can do whatever he wants. But we will talk about the issues that matter to the people. And I'll address your question too. But I'm telling you, the people of this country are asking, why is the Prime Minister not holding a debate on one nation, Maha-inflation? Why not? Why isn't he talking about that? He's talking about all this, and let me tell you why. And you actually alluded to this. You basically said, why on this day when the India Alliance was meeting in Mumbai? Isn't it obvious? These people are rattled. When the second meeting was held in Bengaluru, Mr. Modi and Mr. Amit Shah ran and said, we have 38. We're going to have a meeting of 38 parties, most of which we don't even know who are in these parties and what elections they've contested. We have 38 parties. That's what they try to divert the attention of the public.
Let's leave aside the timing for a second. Please answer the question I asked you, Salman. In principle, you should welcome one nation, one poll because the burden, financial burden is far lesser on a party like yours.
Yes. Let me. But Zaka, this is not from the 1980s. The first elections in India were simultaneous elections.
Yes.
Until 1967. We had simultaneous elections. Then what happened was that when government started falling and this whole process got it diverged, and now we have come to 2023 and we have a system in place. These kinds of issues can be debated. There are pros and cons, no doubt about it. But the reason the Prime Minister wants us to talk about this is because he doesn't want the people of the country to think about the issues. Please don't interrupt. You're so...
Let him finish, ma'am. I've got two
Why
other
do you
guests also
interrupt
who have not spoken yet. So Salman,
Why are you
please
so
conclude.
frustrated?
Salman, please conclude in the next
Why are you frustrated?
in the next 20 seconds,
Just focus,
please.
relax.
Please, let's keep it railed. Let's keep it completely within the rails. Salman, please conclude in the next 20 seconds. I have to go to Ghanshyam Tiwari and to
Look,
Sanjay
Zaka,
Kumar,
I'm not interrupting anybody. Nobody should interrupt me. It's as simple as that. Let's have a civilized debate about this. So I think there are lots of pros and cons. Yes, of course. And by the way, this is a very diverse country with a very complicated electorate and lots of layers of government. So this is not about Lok Sabha, and then it's not about just assembly. It's not about just urban local bodies. It's panchayats. It's not just one panchayat. You have sarpanches, you have panches. It's good. It's a very complicated. It requires a lot of study, and there should be. Why
okay,
not? Let's
you
have
know
a
what?
study.
One second. So
This
let
is
me
not
ask. So
about that.
no.
This
I
is
agree
not
with
about
you.
that.
I agree with
This
you on
is
there should be a
about
lot of study.
distracting
No,
attention
so
from space
Salman,
people.
let me ask Ghanshyam Tiwari this. You know, the fact is there have been a lot of studies. I go back all the way to Election Commission 1983, Ghanshyam Tiwari. Their conclusion was this is a desirable system. I go back to the Justice BP Jeevan Reddy Commission, 170th report, May 1999, and this is what he said, and I quote from that report: we must go back to the situation where elections to the Lok Sabha and all legislative assemblies are held at once. 2003, I outlined how Prime Minister Vajpayee had taken this issue up with Congress President Sonia Gandhi. She appeared initially receptive, but then the idea did not take off. Again in 2010, BJP opposition leader at that time, L.K. Advani, took up this matter with Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. Again, seemed receptive, but it went nowhere. Point is, all of these law commissions, election commission, parliamentary committees that have gone into this matter have come to the same conclusion that this is entirely desirable. So then why is the Samajwadi Party opposed to it?
Good evening, Zaka, to you, my fellow co-panelists and the viewers. Let us not fall for the hook. It is only in July 27, you don't have to go back to 1983. July 27, this government told the Rajya Sabha, the Papa famous law minister, Mr. Meghwal, told the Rajya Sabha that the government will create an elaborate roadmap to discuss law commission report. So clearly this government has no clue whether they can do it, they cannot do it. There is not a single election commissioner who can go on record and say this can happen. This will not happen. We do not know the ABC of the parliamentary session, special session that has been called by this government that has an infamy of least number of sittings in a Lok Sabha, 17th Lok Sabha. It beats its own record. It beats its own record with respect to number of bills passed without debate, number of ordinances. So clearly from Prime Minister's appearance in Parliament for debate, which is low compared to any other Prime Minister, his participation in answering questions in Parliament, which is low compared to any other Prime Minister, or their belief in parliamentary democracy, they have zero belief in parliamentary democracy. Their record show. Why would they pull out this hoax saying that tomorrow, this election, there will be preponement of election and an unprepared setup would be created for one nation, one election? Because they want to crowd out the story of one nation, one businessman. Across the world, people are talking about one nation, one businessman, and the BJP is on the back foot. They want to crowd out the story of India Alliance, who wants India to be on the front foot with respect to jobs, with respect to fighting inflation, with respect to the social harmony. They want to crowd out the agenda with respect to China, where the Prime Minister has met 20 times, but we have not been able to resolve
I think the debate is not on one nation, one election, because everybody is out of syllabus.
Because the government wants to crowd out these important agenda, they are doing two things. They are creating a parliamentary session where, unfortunately, they are making a mockery of the entire vibrant democracy of 144 Indians.
Ma'am, let him finish. I'll come to you. Let him finish.
Where the BJP spokesperson or a national channel and a senior journalist like you or Sanjay Kumar ji or Salman Soji, none of us know what is the agenda. A, B, C of the agenda of a parliamentary session is not known to the country. It's a special session. The only problem I have with this is, every time the Prime Minister has had a eureka moment, whether it was Notbandi, whether it was rapidly enforced lockdown, whether it is override GST, the nation has had to face a nightmare. I hope that the Prime Minister is not having another...
You are giving a free run to them on a topic that is not the current subject of discussion.
One final point to the BJP that talks about the merit of this with respect to saving costs. This is the party that has amassed over 10,000 crores in the last few years. Not 1 crore can Sanju Verma say where it came from. They have a problem with Adani because we have asked a simple question that how much of this was contributed by Adani, and it was asked in Parliament. which was expunged. So that is the reason one nation business, one businessman model has to be saved.
Okay.
As a result, new
So,
hopes
both Salman and Ghanshyam have, spoken essentially about the timing of this decision, not about the merits or demerits of whether we should have one nation, one poll. Sanjay Verma, please respond to that, and then I'll go to Professor Sanjay Kumar. Sanjay Kumar, please give us 1 minute, and then I'll come to you. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Now, Zaka, since you have been very indulgent of the other two panelists who spoke on everything apart from one nation, one election, allow me to rebut them. And while Salman says that BJP is frustrated, Ghanshyam Tiwari says the Prime Minister is clueless, BJP spokesperson is frustrated. Sanju Verma is as frustrated as saying that Rahul Gandhi is Albert Einstein and Salman Soz is Elvis Presley and Ghanshyam Tiwari is Elton John. But that's not the case. Now let me...
I wish it was, but it would have been a great 9 o'clock debate, but yeah, go on.
And I've been kind to Zaka, so I will not, put any acronym against his name. But be that as it may, I will just read out Zaka, and it won't take me more than 20 seconds. This is a tweet that I put out today in response to Rahul Gandhi saying that, Narendra Modi only listens to Adani and Adani is running the country and blah, blah. That same old trope which is utter gibberish. And I've been an investment banker for donkey's years in the biggest bulge bracket firms. And I say this, if there is a case of round tripping against Adani, then let SEBI investigate. There's a 7-member Supreme Court committee headed by Justice Sapre, who was the earlier Chief Justice of Guwahati High Court. Let's trust this panel. KV Kamath, who's a part of the committee, is not a Modi Bhakt. OP Bhatt, who's a part of the committee, is not a Modi Bhakt. Soma Sundaresan, he's on the board of Oxfam and is written always against Modi. He's not a Modi Bhakt. He's a part of this committee. Nandan Nilekani, who's a bona fide congressman, from what I last know, he's a part of the committee and is not a Modi Bhakt. If there's anyone who's rattled, it is not the BJP, but it is the Congress and this Ghamandia alliance. And I'll tell you why. This is my tweet. I will take 20 seconds to read it. Legitimate wealth creation should be welcomed and not demonized, but since Radha is demonizing India's corporates with no proof and only hearsay from shoddy war criminals like Soros, it is time for Rahul Gandhi to stop asking questions and start answering a few. First question, is it true that in 2006 under a corrupt Congress government, though Adani had applied for only 5,000 acres, he was given 10,000 acres to set up his first SEZ? Second question, and there are just one more. Is it true that on 17th May 2014, Adani acquired one of the largest all-weather multi-cargo ports at Dhamra in Bhadra district of Odisha for just 5,500 crore? And mind you, this happened before Narendra Modi took charge as Prime Minister on 26th May 2014. And my last question, is it true that under a Congress government in 1993, land for the Mundra port was given to Adani at how much do you know? At just 10 paise per square meter. The Congress gave Adani the largest chunk of land, more than 15,000 hectares, to build the Mundra port at what price? At 10 paise per square meter. So a party whose Sonia Gandhi is out on bail, Rahul Gandhi out on bail, P. Chidambaram out on bail, Robert Vadra out on bail, should not give bhashan to the BJP, as they say. People who stay in glass houses should not throw stones at others.
So, no, once again, I want to go to Professor Sanjay Kumar. Let's get the long shot back in. Professor Sanjay Kumar, let's leave all the politics aside, the timing, India alliance, the whole Adani story, diversionary tactic, all of that. I want to ask you a very simple question. We did have one nation, one polls from 1952 to 1967. It's a separate matter after 1967 because of various reasons, President's rule, hung assembly, all of that. We've diverted away, the cycles have changed. Now, the simple question that's being asked is, and this is what many of the opposition parties are also saying, if you go back to one nation, one poll, it will unduly benefit national parties, BJP, Congress in this case, and it will unduly be disadvantageous to regional parties, DMK, ADMK, whatever other regional parties, BRS, YSRCP, etc. Is there merit in that argument? Because the counter argument to that is, this is 2023. The voter is wise enough. He or she knows that you can choose one party at the center and one party at the state. And we've seen that in numerous cases.
Zaka, you're right. In the recent past, if you look at the elections of the past 5 years, there have been instances where voters have chosen different political parties in the same state when they wanted to elect, like the state government or the Lok Sabha government. But remember, most of these instances are of elections which were held separately. Talk about Delhi. Delhi is a good example. But look at what has happened. Some other states, Andhra, which goes to poll simultaneously, Sikkim, few other states. So it is true that voters are in a situation to make carefully, to make a careful choice. But it is only, or it is largely when elections take place at different places. Going back to your previous question, yes, there is a data. If you analyze all the data, there are chances of people voting for the same party, the dominant party of that time when Lok Sabha and the Vidhan Sabha elections take place simultaneously. And I am using the word dominant party. I am not saying it is about BJP, it is about Prime Minister Narendra Modi. When Congress was the dominant party in the 60s, 70s and 80s, so whenever simultaneous election took place, large number, 70% times, the vote difference between the assembly election and the Lok Sabha elections, when elections took place simultaneously, was within the range of 0 to 3% in 70% time. That applies for regional parties also. Yes, the caveat is the smaller regional parties will be in a disadvantageous position. If a regional party is a dominant party in the state, that party also is not at a disadvantageous position. But if you are talking about the smaller regional parties, I think there are chances of smaller regional parties getting marginalized, because if I look at the vote share estimate for a small regional party, when state went to polls along with the Lok Sabha election, the smaller regional parties were at a hugely disadvantageous position in the Lok Sabha election, though they managed to get some votes in the state assembly election. So in the state assembly election, choices are more diverse. People try and look at their voting preferences, which party they want to vote for more carefully. Smaller regional parties are still preferred, but if you club the state assembly election and the Lok Sabha election together, I think it is going to be hugely disadvantaged for smaller regional parties.
Okay, so Salman Soz, I come back to the various committees that have gone into this, including the latest one of the Parliamentary Standing Committee, which was appointed in 2015. It was headed by EM Sudarshan Nachiyappan. He's not a BJP member of Parliament. He's from one of the regional parties in the opposition. And the conclusion that they came to, the Parliamentary Standing Committee, which had members of the BJP and the opposition, is that yes, it would reduce the massive expenditure that's currently incurred for holding separate elections, the policy paralysis that results in the imposition of model code of conduct during election time, the impact on delivery of essential services, the burden on crucial manpower that is deployed, that is security personnel who are deployed during election time. This is a Parliamentary Standing Committee headed by an opposition member of Parliament coming to this conclusion. Like I said, every commission that's gone, Election Commission in 83, the Law Commission, the Justice Jeevan Reddy Commission, they've all come to the same conclusion. So then what is the opposition? Please don't tell me about the timing or the India Alliance. We've heard that. Tell me on merit what your opposition is.
I'll tell you on merits, but I just want to tell you one thing, Zaka, that if I interrupt somebody on your show, you should mute me. Please mute me if I interrupt anybody. But of course, if anybody else interrupts us, you should mute them, because otherwise there's no civility in the discussion. Now, on your specific question, and by the way, I was not aware that BJP spokespersons came on TV and told everybody about how they tweeted during the day. I think that's a waste of time. But as far as this particular issue is concerned, on July 27th, 2023, which is just literally a month back, you talked about all the different committees that have sat. Now, this is July 27th, the Minister for Law and Justice says in the Rajya Sabha that he's talking about simultaneous elections. And basically he said this matter is now, it has been referred to the Law Commission for further examination to work out practicable roadmap and framework for simultaneous elections to Lok Sabha and state assemblies. So, by the way, this is Lok Sabha and state assemblies. According to the minister, it has been referred to the Law Commission on the 27th of July. He said this in Parliament. Now, he does not talk about one nation, one poll, because he's not obviously talking about urban local bodies, panchayats. Those are separate altogether. So that is one. In this very reply, the minister says that there have been many impediments that different commissions have talked about, and he talks about some of them. And he talks about bringing amendments in not less than 5 articles of the Constitution. Okay, 5. He lists those 5 articles. He talks about obtaining consensus of all political parties. Now, please tell me, in this day and age, with the Prime Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, and all these other people, do you think there is any trust between the ruling party and the opposition? When the institutions of the state are constantly used to harass and raid opposition leaders, only opposition leaders. Nothing happens to the BJP people.
Stop lying.
Then now, if she, you see, you should mute her when I'm speaking, because
Look, I don't mute anyone,
not
but
the
let's keep the discussion civil. Let's keep the discussion civil.
exactly.
Look, Salman, you know this. I don't mute anyone. I don't believe in muting spokespersons. But let's have a civil discussion. Let's keep it within the rails, please.
Because people are
Let's keep it within the rails. Sanju ma'am, I'll come back to you. Just give me 10 seconds.
People
Let
are turned
Salman
off by
conclude.
these
Let Salman
things. Why
conclude.
did
Yeah,
she
please.
interrupt
Let
my
Salman
flow?
conclude. I'll come back to you in 10 seconds. Yeah,
Okay.
Salman, please conclude. Again, please stick
Having-
to the merits of the question that I
I'm-
asked you.
I'm
On
telling
merit,
you-
why are you opposed to one nation, one poll?
I'm reading to you.
Yeah, we've
from
heard
the
that.
minister's
Yes.
reply.
Yes.
Now, he talked about consensus. He talked about we have to keep in mind. This is not he saying. He's saying what the different committees have said, that we have to keep in regard the federal structure of our system of governance.
Okay.
It is imperative that the state governments and their consensus is acquired. Please tell me, is Prime Minister Modi going to be able to get Mamata Banerjee's consensus on this when he goes and speaks to her and says, Didi or Didi, as if he will.
Okay.
So-
Now, Sanju
so
Verma.
this
No,
is-
one second. I don't
Again,
know if our
again
producers have this graphic.
interruption. Again
One second. This is easier said than done, and I can play this out either on this wall or the smaller one on what is required legislatively to bring this about. This means a 2/3 majority in both houses of parliament. In the Lok Sabha, where the BJP, the NDA have almost a brute majority, they don't have a 2/3 majority. They have a 61% majority. They need a 67. That is in the Lok Sabha. In
And
the
they're going to
Rajya
use that
Sabha, they are thereabouts close to 50%. So from 50 to 67, they'll need some substantial support of other parties. And then, of course, there is the state assemblies, where currently, either on its own or in alliance, the BJP is ruling in 14 states. There are 29. So they will need at least another 1 or 2 where 50% of the state legislatures have to vote in favor of this. So, Sanju Verma, how are you going to overcome this? Which is why the opposition is again and again saying this. This is a red herring. This is a trial balloon. You're just wanting to divert attention from Adani, India Alliance, all of that, and so on and so forth.
Let me just make one thing very clear. Since Salman Soz said that, Sanju reading out her tweet is a waste of time. Mr. Soz, let me tell you, your party, the Congress, the incompetent Congress, won just a single seat from Maharashtra in Lok Sabha 2019, a single seat from Uttar Pradesh in 2019, a single seat from Madhya Pradesh in 2019, a single seat from Bengal in 2019, a single seat from Karnataka in 2019, and a single seat from Bihar in 2019. Given that BJP has a brute majority, going by sheer numbers, if there is one person who should not be there on the panel and what he speaks is a waste of the audience's time, that is you, Salman Soz. But thank God that we have channels which still indulge the Congress, and I don't mean Zaka, but I mean by and large.
In a democracy, it's always good to have treasury benches and opposition. So,
I said that on a
let's
lighter
have
note.
that space. Yeah.
They don't want any opposition.
Go on.
Okay.
Make your point on merit. To the question I asked. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Unlike you, Salman Soz, I know Zaka does a phenomenal job. I won't ask him to mute you because I know he knows his job. Now, coming straight to your question, let me back this straight without any ifs or buts. Zaka, this is an idea which has been discussed right since 1983. It was mooted by BP Jeevan Reddy, the then Law Commission head, in 1999. It was again mooted in August of 2018 by the then Law Commission head B.S. Chauhan. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has spoken about it even on the Constitution Day on 26th November 2020 at a public forum, saying that this is the crying need of the hour. Now, whether the BJP will be able to pull off this entire thing or not. Of course, discussions need to be had with stakeholders. Is it going to be an easy task? I would be fooling myself and you and your audience by saying it is. It is going to take a lot of back and forth because, as I said earlier, we are in alliance and on a standalone basis in power in 14 or 15 odd states, which means that we still have to get in touch with people from the other side who may not be affiliated to us ideologically, but maybe we will be able to find common ground, because this is not about BJP versus Congress. This is about trying to ensure that one nation, one election cuts down administrative hassles, is easy on the public exchequer, and does not become unfair to regional parties, because it is the regional parties, Zaka, who always feel that they will get the short end of the stick if there is one nation, one election. So I think they are the ones who need to be taken into confidence. But don't forget, I will just take 10 seconds. We saw the recent no confidence motion by the opposition against the Modi government. The likes of Salman Soz and his incompetent Rahul Gandhi had a nice big fat wobbly omelette on their face. We have the support of Biju Janata Dal, which has 12 MPs in the Lok Sabha. We have the support of YSRCP, which has 22 odd MPs in the Lok Sabha. So there are people within the opposition who may be ideologically different, but when it comes to important burning issues, they stand with us, and that is
I have to give the final word to Ghanshyam Tiwari. Ghanshyam, quickly, I need to wrap up. Again, this is just an idea that's been mooted. Why is the opposition so rattled on day one of the idea being mooted, when the news has broken that the former president-headed commission will be looking into the feasibility of one nation, one election?
Quick summary points. One, as everybody has stated, it's not an idea that has been mooted. This is an idea that has remained muted for a while and has come to fore right now to distract. The government response to Rajya Sabha says they are not prepared for it, and BJP does not know what's the name of the committee, who are the members. That's one. Second point, that what Sanjeev Verma elaborately explained, that how Mr. Adani was a crony capitalist under Congress, and after he flew around with the Prime Minister across the world in his plane and in other planes, he became a persuasive, wealth-creating, nation-loving capitalist, and also the second richest man, and donated a lot of money to BJP that has 10,000 crores. That is Sanjeev Verma's claim. The third point that I want to state is that the last time this government said they wanted to do something in favor of people was the Farm Bill, which later media has reported was co-authored by the nation-loving Adani Group and an NRI. So, more than 700 farmers had to sacrifice their lives. More than 700 farmers sacrificed their lives. And in the end, the Prime Minister had backtracked. So this is not a stage. This is not a stage. Final point is, this is not a stage for the nation to experiment with another idea, either a maverick idea by the Prime Minister that will give a nightmare to the nation, or an idea co-authored by some NRI, some Adani Group, or some other corporate that wants to benefit.
Professor Sanjay Kumar, final word again. I have 30 seconds to wrap up. The political wisdom seems to be that the BJP realizes in the upcoming state elections, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, etc., it may not be in a strong position. Therefore, if it's clubbed with the Lok Sabha and if Mr. Modi is on the ticket, it has a better chance of retaining those states. Do you buy that?
No, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, absolutely. If the state assembly elections are clubbed with the Lok Sabha elections, BJP will certainly gain, because Prime Minister Modi is a vote catcher for BJP, and when people will be intending to vote for BJP in the Lok Sabha election, there are chances of same voter voting for the BJP even in the assembly election, which may not have been the case if the two elections are held separately. So I do buy this argument that BJP is trying to club these together because BJP would stand to gain at this moment.
Okay. All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for this fascinating conversation. Sanjeev Verma, Ghanshyam Tiwari, Salman Soz. We'll see how this plays out, and of course, Professor Kumar for joining us.